Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. My guest today is an Academy Award nominated actress, a health and wellness advocate, an author, and just a dynamic woman, Mariel Hemingway. Welcome, Mariel.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so great to see you again. I think during this time, a lot of people have been reflecting about life in general, and I think they've had to look at themselves deeper than any time before. And I know that people who are on the spiritual path, are not having a breakdown; they're really having a breakthrough. Um,
Yes.
and another thing that I watched some of your interviews the other night, and I was, acting for you was something that you didn't really choose, which was so interesting because I thought that you might have, auditioned, but your sister gave you that role in to play her kid sister. And then you went on to doing, having, Manhattan with Woody Allen, and that you didn't really know what you were doing in that character. Uh, and that was hysterical. But yet you were nominated for an Academy Award. What was that like being on that set and not even knowing what you were doing?
Well, I was literally a little girl from Idaho,
Uh-huh.
having I didn't even really understand what my last name was at the time that I went and made this movie with my sister. And then I made Manhattan, which was an extraordinary experience. I loved it. I loved that I was being treated like an adult, but I have to say, I was completely like, there were certain things about the movie, sexual thing, because I was so naive. I was such a little girl. I'd never had a boyfriend. I mean, I really didn't know what the hell anything was about, but it was a life-changing experience for me. But it changed my life because it set me on the course of being an actress and being in the public eye in a way that I probably never would have chosen to do. And yet, it's definitely been my life's course. And now I realize it kind of set me up to do what I'm doing today, which is really bringing awareness to health and wellness, mental, physical, and emotional, and even spiritual. That seems to be my passion in life. So it's been good. It's been good.
Well, it's always interesting that everything we've done in our lives has brought us to this moment. And what was so interesting is that, you grew up in this family that was quite, prestigious, and there were 7 suicides in the family. And I think sometimes people think that if you come from a, celebrity family or that some well-known family that you have no problems, that it's easy living, but really that it's the flip side. There are family issues.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we're human beings on this planet, and truly, I don't think there's a family out there that doesn't struggle with something. There's some sort of issues that are woven through different kinds of families. A family dynamic like mine is that there are generations of mental health issues, mental health problems, and suicide, all kinds of things that led to suicidal behavior. And I'm not going to say that it's because of the family or the fame that happened. I think it just is because that's the family that I had, and that's the family that all of us have. I mean, I think we all have to deal with something. I'm a big believer that we all have to deal with some sort of depression, or somebody in our family who's an addict, or there's so many different things that the world challenges us with. And as a celebrity, somebody who's well known, to be able to bring voice to those issues so that other people don't feel alone. I think that's really, that's the only benefit to me, having come from a family that has struggled a lot. And also, it's been great for me to have a deeper understanding of myself, and finding the things that work for me, that make me able to be stable and healthy and happy, and share that with others.
Did you find that growing up in that family that at some point there was a, let's say, an alarm that said, "Oh my God, I'm next"?
When I was younger, I think that I lived definitely in fear of either going crazy, or getting to a place where I want to take my life or something. I, I, I mean, years have gone past, lots of work on myself, lifestyle work, food, exercise, knowing my balance, knowing the things that make me tick. I don't worry about those things anymore at all. But I will have to say that my existence was all about I how do I negotiate the waters of my life, so that I can avoid, becoming manic depressive or suicidal. I don't worry about those things, because I know what to do to keep myself balanced. But everybody has that responsibility in themselves. I really believe that we've come to a time where we have to take responsibility for our own well-being, our own health, our mental and physical. It's really important, especially now during COVID and all this. People can't look to the outside anymore for solutions, because those solutions aren't coming. And even if they are coming, it might not be the right solution for you. So it's really an internal observation, internal questions that one has to ask themselves on, how do I make myself better, myself more balanced.
And it's interesting. It's almost like you were having a, let's say, a little upgrades going through these situations. And I saw that you had said one of your biggest struggles was food.
Yes.
What was that
Yes.
about?
And yeah, that was a really tough one to come to terms with. It took me a very long time. I did a internet thing about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and it was for something called Style Like You, and it was about kind of revealing yourself, and you would take off different clothing till you ended up in your underwear, and it was really a very revealing sort of few hours that was cut down to a short amount of time. And I really revealed that sort of the struggle that I had with food, with my body. My body image was horrible for a great deal of my life. It's no longer that. I really like myself now, and I really like my body, and I really have found the food and the way of eating that works for me. It was a journey to get there, though. Food became, I think I put a lot of pressure on food and eating, and my body, to kind of create a sense of self, and you don't get it through the outside that way. Uh, but the journey's been good, because now I'm in a place where I can honestly say and share with other people that there's light at the end of the tunnel, of people that actually suffer from that kind of obsessive desire to control. And really what that comes down to is, it's really not about food. It's really not even about your body. It's really about this fear of losing control. And once you realize you have absolutely no control, I mean, what has COVID taught us? That we have no control. We have no control except over the choices that we make every day, the thoughts that we think. And that's why lifestyle choices have become so incredibly important to me.
Well, it's interesting. You've had to really take dominion over your health and wellness. And I know that you produced and did the movie Running from Crazy. It probably
Yes.
was very healing to do a lot of these things that you're doing, because it's almost like you're seeing pieces of your life in front of you. And I think you're having a breakthrough, and I think most people are afraid to go down that route.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, I think, we only fear what we don't understand or what we don't know. And we also fear our memories, our past. Our past is infused with all these thoughts that we had during the time, but we now think about and reiterate in our brain. And the truth is, memories have no ability to hurt us, but we don't understand that until we dive in. So that fear is of diving into those places that caused us pain in the past. But when it caused you pain in the past, it can't hurt you again. It's only a journey of taking a deep breath and going, let me look at this, because when I look at it, then I'm free of it. Once you start to tell your story, once you start to really untangle the kind of complications of your past, you really can come out the other side being quite strong and healthy.
What does happiness mean for Mariel?
Well, happiness for me is I my life partner and I, Bobby Williams,
Who's
we wake
amazing,
up
by the
every
way.
morning and
Yeah,
what?
who's amazing, by the way.
Yeah,
The
he is
two of you, when
amazing.
I first saw the two of you together, it was like magic of kismic balance.
Yes. And thank you for that. I feel that I've been very blessed to have found a life partner that, I mean, it's like we speak the same way. He's so male, and which enables me to be extremely female, which I don't think I allowed myself to be. But we have this great, just like, there's just a great understand. I'm so grateful because I was in a not so happy marriage for a very, very long time. And that nobody's fault but my own for staying in it. But um, when you get to a place where you have a relationship that really encourages you to grow and become more of yourself, and to get back to your question about happiness, is it creates happiness. It enables you to have that joy that really is our birthright. And I think that we've forgotten that, we're meant to be happy. We're meant to find joy. We're meant to find love. Anyway, I want to get back to, we wake up every morning, and Bobby built this sandbox outside, and we watch the sunrise from our sandbox. And the reason why it's a sandbox is that we sit there and we're on the sand, which means we're grounded. And being grounded, the electromagnetic field of the earth comes up through you. You're connecting to the sun, and it's a really powerful thing. And every day we're just so incredibly grateful for where we live and how we figured out how best serves us to be the best people that we can be. And I'm just grateful. And I think waking up with that gratitude creates happiness. I really do believe that happiness comes from gratitude, comes from the choices that you make, comes from the relationships that you work on and make important in your life.
And I also think, Mariel, a lot of people are not really 100% happy in their current relationships, meaning partnerships or marriage. So they stay in them because it's easier than to get out of them or to grow. Um, what would you say for someone who's struggling in a relationship, but they're at the crossroads of should I, shouldn't I? Maybe I should stay because of finances. Maybe I should stay because of the kids. What would you suggest for individuals like that?
Well, I so understand. I was in a marriage for 24 years, and I stayed, I kept thinking, I'll stay till the girls have graduated from high school. And I wasn't it wasn't an abusive, physically abusive relationship at all. I was unhappy, and I kept making that choice of, oh, I'll stay because of, many of the things that you just described. But I can tell you that honestly, the truth is, if it's not making you feel open and happy and joyous about your life, and that doesn't mean that relationship is always fun and happy and joyous and whatever. It means that there's stuff to be worked out. But if you're not working that out with your partner, I'm telling you, it's just stagnant, and it doesn't serve you. It serves you to break out into who you are. And the great thing about my relationship now is that it is not codependence that we are together. It is that he is this incredible individual who's on his journey, who has his path, and I have my own path. And I am strong on my own, and I know that I could survive on my own. I wouldn't want to have to, but I know that I can. And then we meet together, and then we create this other kind of life and relationship together. So I just say to anybody who's struggling with those ideas, be brave. Be brave with your life, because you deserve to be joyous. You deserve to be happy. And I think that takes sometimes a big leap. I mean, I know right now it's really challenging because, financially we're so scared. Everybody just doesn't know when the shoe will drop and how things are going to go down. But still, I think we are guided and we are protected by by whatever out there, God, the universe, and or angels, whatever it is. And so we can make these choices. We can make these big leaps into what is right for us.
And I know that, when Bobby entered your life, both of you wrote that book, Running with Nature. You both are
Yes.
like nature. You're always doing something. What is that? It's almost like you could both make a movie on the nature of the two of you. It's so fascinating. What do you how did that start? I mean, Bobby's always been, he was a stunt man, but he's always been, someone who's Mr. Health. How did it all come around that you were into the nature together?
Well, I grew up in, this because this is where we met. You met me in Idaho. I grew up in a small town in the mountains, and it was beautiful. And honestly, because my family was so tortured by their own thoughts and addictions and whatever else, that being outside and being in nature was it was my connection to God. It was my way of finding balance. It's how I survived. I love nature. I love being outside. Bobby is very similar. He grew up on the east end of Long Island, so he grew up on the total other side of the country. But he just loves connecting in nature. It was the same thing when we met. It was like, I know you. It's that thing. It's like, oh my God, not in a kind of prurient way, but really in like, oh my gosh, we're so similar. We have such similar desire to be. We believe that nature really is one of our biggest teachers. Whether it's the sun, the air we breathe, the water you drink, the water you get into, whether it's cold, like, I think nature has so much to offer us. And and this year has been all about being alone in nature, like whether sometimes we go out together and sometimes we're just by ourselves in the forest or on the beach and just taking it in, because it's really been a year of reflection and time to learn and grow from from the earth. I think the earth has a lot to teach us that we need to pay attention to.
And what's so great is nature is, and I hike every Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock with a friend of mine, and we hike in the Santa Monica Mountains. And there's something about being in the forest. It aligns you to this other energy. And I know even in Japan, they do something called forest breathing, where they take in
Yeah,
all the energy from Mother Nature. And Mother Nature is powerful, um,
power.
very powerful. What connects you with God?
Well, I think, it's just going to go right back to nature. Uh, when I watch that sunrise every morning, I feel so like so connected to God. I mean, I've always felt that way. I remember growing up, my mother had cancer, and I would pray outside in the forest, and it was that connection to silence and the stillness, or the sounds of birds, or the sounds of wind, or the sounds of the snow coming, you know falling, and the quiet, and the sounds, all of that. That's, to me, that is God. I mean, it's interesting you bring up the Japanese, because they do believe in, nature. That what is the Japanese religion that actually, is it
Shinto,
Shinto?
Shinto.
Yeah, Shinto. And the belief that, nature is God. um I think, God is in everything, but especially in nature. Trees are so powerful. They've been around for centuries. Imagine the stories they could tell us if we could hear them. So I don't know. I guess nature.
Yeah, nature. No, nature's great, and I think what's also important for people to understand is that meditation and prayer is a way of stillness to connect you with nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, we take that time in the morning, and we breathe. I do breathing exercises, and I meditate. And I'm always amazed at what you hear in the stillness. As you sit there and take in the surroundings of being outside, whether it's cold, whether it's warm, whether it's whatever the temperature is, whatever the conditions are, that how you take that in, it's profound. It's a profound teacher. And yes, meditation and prayer, it's all of those things are just interconnected in my mind.
How can one truly learn to love themselves?
For me, it was a process. Yeah, I always knew that it was something that you wanted to do. You'd hear these things, you can only really love someone else until once you love yourself, right? And it was an intellectual concept,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't something I felt all the time. And it's a process. It's a life process of, and I'm not saying that you can't get to it earlier than I did. It took me a while, but it's a process of forgiving yourself for the things that you berate yourself about. In one of my first books that I wrote, called Healthy Living from the Inside Out, I talk about the voice inside your head that criticizes you all the time. That voice that's like constantly. Now, if you have that voice as a person over for dinner, you'd probably kick them out because they're so rude. They're so, abusive. And yet we tend to put up with this inner voice that abuses us, because why? That's a habit. So in order to love oneself and come to terms with oneself, we have to be aware of the habits that stop us from seeing the goodness in ourselves. And one of those things is by really looking at that inner voice and saying, hey, cut it out. So every time it comes up and wants to berate you and say something nasty or put you down for whatever reason because of some habit or because a mother said something or a teacher said something or a sister said something when you were 4, you've got to be aware of those things. And once you can stop that inner dialogue of that negative, kind of abusive inner dialogue, then you start to see that you're already wonderful. You're, like I think I often say to people, because I do a lot of speaking, everybody has the perfect body, the perfect brain, the perfect relationship, the perfect everything already. You just need to uncover it.
Well, I
It's
think,
already there.
yeah, people are
You're
always,
already a great
people are
person.
always, Mariel, people are always looking outside themselves for the
Yeah.
happiness instead of looking within. I think that's
Yes.
their biggest misconception, is it's already there. And I love when you said
Absolutely.
about that you didn't want to leave your baggage for your daughters, that you wanted them to be individuals, and that you wanted to clean up any mess so that your communication would be really clear with them. Have they taken any kind of spiritual path, your daughters?
I think my daughters are extraordinary. My youngest daughter, Langley Fox, is an amazing artist. And my oldest is also an artist. So she's an actress and a model, and she's very talented. And they're both, yes, I don't think it's specific, their kind of spirituality, but I know that they are very introspective, and my youngest is very, very into nature. They're both connected. I don't judge them. I don't try to guide them towards anything. But yeah, it was very important to me to kind of clean up my own act so that I didn't hand them a load of baggage that they had to undo, that was mine to undo. And so I feel like I did that to a certain extent. And, I gave them, I'm sure, a ton of their own baggage, but I've tried to be clear on the mistakes that I may have made or whatever. But I'm really proud of my girls. My girls are pretty extraordinary. And God, they're not girls anymore. They're both women in their 30s. So
Wow.
there you go.
Wow. I'll never forget the first time I met you in Sun Valley, where you did that cartwheel with your on stage, the yoga. That was really that was really impressive. Are you still doing
Oh
any
my
more of
God.
that?
I still do yoga. I do. I'm super active. Bobby's got me, rock climbing and doing all kind. He has me doing more bombastic movement than I used to do. I used to be far more into my yoga practice, which I'm still into, but he's got me doing a lot of other stuff. So I'm a little bit tighter than I used to be, but yeah, I can still do a cartwheel.
What was it? The thing you were doing, like a tight wire? You were like walking like almost in a circus. It was some interview,
Oh, yes, they're called slacklines,
right?
and you put them up. We put them up between two trees in our yard, and we walk on those. Like literally, like balance walk. You can see it down in Santa Monica or Venice. You can go down to Venice. There's all these slack lines around that people are going on. But we do that. It's a balance thing. It's really good for you. It's something a lot of climbers do, and Bobby got me into it. I'm still like horrible at it. My balance isn't the best, but hence my first book, which was called Finding My Balance, which apparently I haven't found yet.
What's next? Actually, what's next for Mariel, and who would you like to work with or meet that you haven't, let's say, had that privilege?
Wow. God, there's so many extraordinary people out there doing incredible things. I'm fortunate to have met you. What's next for me? Bobby and I have a lifestyle brand called the Barefoot Life, Williams Hemingway Barefoot Life, which is a lifestyle brand about connecting with the earth and nature and the food that you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe. whether you move, exercise, your connection to this world, and bringing kindness and goodness to yourself and to your community. That's our brand. And we want to have products that reflect our beliefs in connection. So that's kind of that's the trajectory we're on now. We're creating that brand, which is pretty cool.
That sounds great.
And I'm producing.
Excellent.
I'm producing a couple of television shows. Actually, I just forgot. How could I forget? I'm producing and hosting a television show about the prevention of suicide. And I'm also producing my grandfather's book, A Movable Feast, into a limited series. So that's pretty exciting.
That's exciting. Well, the first time I ever met you, I saw your light, and I just want to thank you for all these years of us being connected, and that I think the connection of people staying together, we see the light in each other. I've always seen the light in Mariel, and I want to thank you for all that you do and the difference you're making in the world. And it's such a pleasure to spend this time with you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. Really, thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Ready, Set, Live. Until next time, peace be with you.